Doc here with Last Best Tool, and today I wanted to talk about some thoughts I have on ratcheting screwdrivers. I've amassed a few of them over time and gotten rid of a bunch of them. And there are about three things that I really think are important with ratcheting screwdrivers, important to consider. One of them is the weight of the screwdriver. The second is the shape of the handle. And the third, and what I think might be the most important, is the indexing of it. Like how many clicks does it take to make a circle and how tight it holds the blade when it's doing that, or the bit. What I've got are some snap-ons, a Mac, a Craftsman, Milwaukee, and Klein, and a couple of small ones and some kind of specialty ones. And I might as well start out with those just to get them off the table. But any ratcheting mechanism can make the use of a screwdriver a lot more handy, maybe even more effective. This is obviously for a tight space, interchangeable bits, and then it's directional. Anytime you've got the angle there, you can't use it upside down or something. So it's kind of one of those things, if you need it, you really need it, but it doesn't come in handy terribly often unless you have a job that specifically requires something like this. And what I've often found is I can get things maybe screwed in a little ways, but to really apply the necessary torque, I find it a little bit troubling to use something that's kind of offset like this. And a lot of times now I'll use like an offset drill or an offset screwdriver that I've got, an electric one like a Milwaukee. But handy to have around. And this thing, I think, if you count the clicks, so here, if this is upright and I go to 90 degrees, 1, 2, 3, 4 clicks. So this is basically a 16 click per circle, which is a lot of space between each click. It's not very fine. This is a Craftsman here. They make a little kind of a triangular set. It comes in a box. Looks like this with an extension, a few bits. This comes in pretty handy. It's actually a really fluid, simple design. Just has a standard bit holder so you can drop the bit directly in. But most of the time I find I need the extension just to kind of keep it in place. This particular one has got a switch on the top, and you can see it's pretty fine. It actually has a spinner, so you could, if you wanted, turn it by hand to get things going. And this one, if we line that up straight and turned it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16... somewhere around 15. 15 times 4 is 60. So it's probably pretty close to what this thing is. Kind of handy and wasn't too expensive. This is a Blue Point here. This one off the Snap-on truck. I can put a 1/4-inch socket on it as well on this end. So it's kind of a double-sided spinner. That was kind of the appeal to try it out. Or it's a bit driver. So it's a handy little thing, and obviously it's reversible here. It's kind of crude, and the more I spin it, the more I feel, some inconsistencies, but it should be warrantied off the truck. But this one I like, and it wasn't much money. What I've got here is standard 1/4-inch ratchet handle and a bit adapter. So it's 1/4-inch on this end, drops in onto the ratchet, and then holds a standard 1/4-inch hexagon right there. This one's made by Mac. Snap-on makes some. You can get them off the truck or ordered. I haven't found them. I found one, I think, in a kit once, but otherwise I haven't really seen them in stores. And this turns things into basically your ratchet handle into a screwdriver. Real handy to have. I like them. Let's start on some of the screwdrivers. If we talk about weight, this thing's about 7 ounces. This Mac is pretty light. which surprised me at around 8 ounces. Then we went up to, actually wait, these are both 7, sorry. Then this one's 8 ounces, the non-flex head or flex handle snap-on, and that's with this size bit. This one also was a little over 8 ounces, not too bad for a Craftsman. You know, they use a heavy plastic. Then we jump up, this one's about 10 ounces. That's with no bits in the handle. And then the Milwaukee with its set of bits, and the Klein here with the bits that you really can't take out and or dump out. This particular one was about 11 ounces, and then this was pushing 11.5 ounces. So they're getting pretty hefty, considering at 7 ounces here, 7 to 11, so 5 ounces. I mean, you're approaching twice as heavy, and you really do notice it with the Klein. It's a heavy screwdriver. As far as the number of turns, the winner is going to be this this particular snap-on. Mac's pretty close. We're dealing mostly with either 36 or I think about 48 and then 60 are about the best we got. I think this is 60. Anyway, that makes a big difference in terms of the precision. I don't find it super critical that often, but you really notice it if you're way down, under 20. But it does come in real handy to be able to quickly twist something on, and sometimes I find myself, and you probably do too, kind of doing both. So I may twist it and then twist it with my fingers as I'm backing up the handle, so I can go in tighter and then just finish it off. Snap-on actually made a set of kind of a micro version of this with interchangeable bits, and I had one for a while, but the problem and why I got rid of it, it was so frustrating, is it had basically on and off, and that was it. There was no way to lock it in the center, and because I couldn't lock it, I couldn't get that precision that I often want when I'm finishing something up. If I'm making an adjustment, grind it in real fast, and then I want to really feel it to get that torque according to my experience with it, and it didn't have that. So if I went too tight, then I had to loosen it by adjusting the ratchet so I could loosen it and then going back to the other direction. It was just maddening, especially with small electronics. I don't know if they fixed that. That was a few years ago, but I was so disappointed because even though it's a ratcheting screwdriver, I do use it on the lock position quite often. So that's one of the reasons I care about that. I've talked about this kind of a screwdriver a few times on other videos. It's definitely a good design. I think it could be a little bit better, but they're really pushing things. And the interchangeable bits on these really makes it pretty amazing. So being able to immediately go to say a flex head ratchet, or running any 1/4 inch bits, sockets on your screwdriver turns the handle into something really useful. The Mac, I don't mind this at all. It actually came in a kit, this kit right here. And the bits are really what make the screwdriver. So, sometimes using the screwdriver handle is secondary to what your bit offering is. So this thing's really handy, goes with me a lot of places. But the Mac, yeah, I like it. I'd take this over it just because I like the handle a little bit better. And this is super light, but it's held up over time. One thing to think about is how easy you can adjust this. The Craftsman's really slippery. The Milwaukee's kind of maddening. The Klein, you have to memorize it. It's this yellow ring, and but a lot of times with the ratcheting screwdriver, you're flipping that back and forth quite often, so it should really be kind of natural. These obviously roll off tables, snap-ons flattened an edge, so it tries to prevent it from rolling off. Sometimes that's a good indexing too of exactly where that lever is. On this one, you know, I know it's there. This will roll off just the table just fine, but I do find, you know, sometimes, you know, I may even keep my hands inside something and I'm working and I need to be able to flip that back and forth with ease. The Max is a metal one, which is out of all of these. It's the only metal collar. I don't know if that's necessary. They did write on it, in case you want to turn it towards your face and try to figure it out. But I wish it had the interchangeable shafts. That would make this really nice. Something about the Milwaukee, this is their bit set. Kind of hard to get out. Not bad to have a pair of pliers handy to slide these out, or you can use the existing bit to help push it out. These are pretty long, so what happens if you stick a small bit in here? You know, it drops way down. That's not too, well, switch screwdrivers here. It can be tough to get it out of there, but it also opens up some kind of precision with something small, even though you've got a big handle, although I'll talk about their smaller version in a sec. But it does hold on to things quite well. In fact, the bit retention is something interesting. All of these hold the bit in quite snug. I have had some that didn't, and I got rid of them because I was always pulling it out of the workpiece or the screw, the fastener, and where's my bit? You know, and it's still stuck in there. And if you're working way inside something and you pull it out, the bit's still way inside. But this is really handy because you can just get a whole bunch of different bits, and I have lots of different bits. I kind of keep them, whether sockets, Torx, squares, stars, all kinds of things. And I really like these Milwaukees here. I used to buy the DeWalt ones, but these Milwaukees are really handy. And they're just the right size for this thing. So it does have a lot of use. This is a little tough to work with. It doesn't make you want to easily switch around, but I think it's great for a car or something where you have all of these handy. I don't know the quality of the steel on these. I've scratched a few up, but I haven't destroyed one yet. The Kleins, their philosophy on this particular one, it's got a great big barrel. You can see that, but that's because these are also nut drivers. So it's a combination nut driver and screwdriver. So it's got a whole bunch of possible orientations. But we're talking about ratchets. So on this one, let me see, what do I got? 1, 2, 3, whoops, start again here. I'll line that straight up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 maybe. 8 times 4, 32. So it's probably close to what it is. That's a pretty big gap between clicks. But the precision of the, say, of the snap-on, that also means it's a finer mechanism. And sometimes, you know, that costs a lot more to make and may not in the long run last as long. It doesn't have as big a parts. This one has this little yellow ring. I find this hard to grab sometimes. Anyway, so this is great, but it's not my favorite, and I don't grab it really unless I want to have access to the nut driver. So if I'm tearing apart a washing machine or something, this might be my go-to because it's so fast to just find that nut driver, and now look at that instant socket. So not bad. The smaller Milwaukee, real handy. The plastic mechanism here, one of these days I'll bust this apart and see what's inside, but does come in quite handy for a small one, especially with the bit set. Oddly, this has no extra bits. You know, it's just the shaft and the bit I put in it. This weighs more than this Milwaukee. The Milwaukee with, what do we have here? 6, 7 bits, both ratcheting mechanisms. This is obviously a lot cruder than this. Oops. And I do like the feel a lot better, but you know, neither one of these is is bad. I love this thing, and as I mentioned in other videos, I can't stand their smaller snap-on little bulbous mini screwdrivers. Couple of other thoughts on these. We talked about the weight. We talked about the ratcheting. The handles on screwdrivers, because you're using them in all kinds of different orientations, they really shouldn't be that directional. Obviously, if I turn this, this has a direction to it, a way it fits in the hand. Doesn't work very well in other directions. Works really well this way. So a ratcheting screwdriver, to me, opens up the potential for holding it firm in the hand and then doing something. So there really is no reason that you have to be locked in to a conventional screwdriver handle, given that you can actually work with it in any orientation now. You can have it be a little bit different shape or to fit in a hand a little bit differently. So I'd love to see the screwdriver manufacturers explore that a little bit more. If it's locked, then yeah, you want to be able to rotate it and grab it at any point. If it's ratcheting, I mean, nobody's saying, well, this ratchet should be a big giant circle instead. No, it's highly directional, but that's because you can ratchet it. So we have some potential here to make some neat designs once we've got that ratchet mechanism ironed out, which I believe we have. The last thing I'll mention, as far as ratcheting screwdrivers, there is play in these things. Even when they're locked down, there's some play. And there's a lot of tasks where I really don't want that play. And I have found that I may use these to start or to take screws out, but not necessarily to put them back in. So that opens up a bit of a world, because I could, what if I, could flip this around? It would be more on, let's say this guy, I had ratcheting here, and if I could flip it around and stick it in the other side, and now it's solid and gives me that precision feel that I want. At the moment, I just have 2 screwdrivers, and I might take stuff out with this, or even if it's a long screw, I'll put it back in and then drop that off and grab a regular screwdriver and finish the job. So there is still potential for advancements I see in ratcheting screwdrivers, but they are so handy that if you don't have one, or you haven't settled on one you really like and start using for a lot of tasks, I highly recommend that you start exploring these. You kind of get what you pay for. These Milwaukees, there's a ton of play compared to, say, the Mac or the Snap-on. This old Craftsman, great, except the bit, there are no bits in here. Normally you could, drop small bits in there. But this thing is like impossible to turn, especially if it's slick at all. And obviously it's tight plastic, so it's too much of a pain to bother using. And I had another one that actually, it was like a Craftsman Professional or something with a bent handle. I think it was made in Germany. It looked really cool, but it was impossible to use. And the bits kept falling out, and it was like a neat design on paper. But this lives in the garage. It's kind of a fast go-to. Seems to be good. I like the knurled handles, because that, when you're ratcheting, that really does come in handy. Mac's got that down with a tougher one. Snap-on, some of theirs, it's knurled, but it's so smooth knurled. Anyway, those are my thoughts on ratcheting screwdrivers, and I'm going to continue to explore and acquire them, trying them out, because out of all my tools, honestly, it's probably the highest percentage tool. This and a plier might be, gosh, a third of all my tool use. So definitely invest in the good stuff and explore the different options. Hope that was helpful. Doc out.